When my grandmother died, she left me the old Victorian on Willow Lane. Everyone in town said the house was too big for one person, that its drywall groaned and the radiators sighed like tired people. I told myself I could handle it. I'd fix the roof, sort the attic, and sell whatever I didn't want. It felt like a sensible, practical plan. Grief makes you practical. The first week was normal, if lonely. I unpacked boxes, stacked dishes, and read through yellowed recipe cards with her handwriting curling across the margins. The house kept its own rhythms. A kettle clicked, pipes shifted under the floor, and sometimes, when the wind hit the chimney just right, an old piano in the parlor gave a single gentle note, as if remembering a melody. I slept with the hall light on and convinced myself that creaks were memories, not warnings. On the 12th night, I woke to the sound of a voice in the hall, very soft, like breath through a keyhole. I sat up and listened. The house had always had thin walls, but this was different. The voice didn't come from a neighbor or passerbys. It came from the house itself, from the plaster and studs. "Don't forget," it whispered. I told myself my mind was a theater stage, grief the playwright. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, the voice was gone. A week later, the whisper returned during a lightning storm. This time, it answered me. I had been sorting old photo albums and complaining out loud that I couldn't remember a detail my grandmother used to tell. The voice, from somewhere in the stairs, said plainly, "You never listen until it's loud." I froze. The light above my head bulb hummed in a slow, steady way. When I walked to the bottom of the staircase, the air smelled faintly of lemon oil and something metallic. The stairwell was empty, but a single photograph lay on the third step, one I had not seen in the albums. It showed my grandmother on the porch, eyes closed, a ring of young faces behind her. On the back, in handwriting I could not place, were the words, "We kept them quiet." That night, I put the photograph on the kitchen table and slept in the car.
Over the next days, small things changed. My phone recorded conversations I had never made. When I opened the voicemail app, there were messages with static and a woman's hush repeating, "Listen to the walls." The dismissed messages rewound themselves when I tried to delete them. The neighbors said they heard nothing. The police suggested stress. Friends offered hotel suggestions and casseroles. Their kindness felt like a life raft in an ocean that had learned to sink quietly. One afternoon, determined to find a rational cause, I tore a small square of plaster from the upstairs hallway where the sound had been strongest. Behind it were old newspaper clippings, brittle as onion skin, reports of missing people, brief notices with names that matched a list tucked in my grandmother's Bible. Dates spanned decades, entries written in her hand, and a tiny, neat scrawl. Names crossed out, dates added, small circles drawn beside those who had been kept. I realized later that the circles matched the photographs with faces always turned away. That night, the voice came without whispering. It filled the whole house, not one corner, but every corner at once. It spoke like an old radio, a slow tuning into frequency. "We protect the quiet. They listen." I asked who they were, and the house said simply, "Those who do not leave their doors open." I tried to leave. I threw everything into the trunk because leaving felt like a confession. But when I climbed into my car, the engine stalled and the radio filled with static that formed words, "Stay, remember." Memory is a slippery thing. The next morning, my car was in the driveway, keys on the coffee table. I hadn't locked the house the night before. The neighbors swore they saw lights move in rooms that were empty. A local contractor offered to board windows. He emailed photos of the attic with something long and pale tucked behind a stack of quilts, like a sleeve or a shape. People told me to sell the house, to burn it down, to call a priest. I called all three, and each time the voice found a way to make the solution sound like surrender. "They come kindly," the house said. "We give them a place to wait."
The worst night came in late autumn. The wind had died, and the old piano in the parlor, untouched for years, played a slow chord while I listened from the hallway with a flashlight that felt inadequate. The voice was patient, almost proud. "We gather what is lost. We keep the rest quiet." I cannot explain why the house chose me. Maybe because I kept my grandmother's recipes. Maybe because I hummed while I cooked. Maybe because in all my life I had never learned how to leave the small, unimportant things behind when someone asked. But the house knows who listens and who opens doors. Before dawn, I packed once more. This time I left the front door ajar and put one plate on the table. When I drove away, my rearview mirror caught a pale shape in the doorway, standing very still and very patient. It looked like a woman with a shawl, but the face was a blur, as if someone had smeared a photograph. I sent the title deed to an estate lawyer and told myself sanity would follow. For 3 nights, I stayed in a motel and slept. On the 4th night, my phone woke me with a notification, a voicemail. I dialed with shaking fingers. Static. Then a voice, softer than the house, but unmistakably human. "Thank you for staying," my grandmother said. "But we needed to remind you how to listen." I deleted the message and burned the voicemail. I do not live in the house now. I still have the photograph with "We kept them quiet" written on the back. Sometimes in rainy afternoons, I imagine the house empty, and I think about what it means to hold stories inside your walls. Other times, when the wind is low and the night is still, I swear I can hear piano keys in the distance and a chorus of soft, emphatic whispers reminding anyone who passes by, "Hold the door open and they will come." If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. Have you ever felt a house listen to you? Tell me in the comments, and share this video if you want the next one to be even darker. Stay safe and check your doors tonight. I was 24. I worked the late shift at a small emergency dispatch center just outside Denver. It was the kind of job that made you feel both important and invisible. The first voice someone heard when their world fell apart, but one no one remembered afterward. We rotated shifts, 4 nights on, 3 off. My coworkers used coffee as religion. The room smelled like burnt energy drinks, recycled air, and that metallic tang of fear that somehow clings to people who listen to screams for a living. One night in November, the board went strangely quiet. No calls for almost 20 minutes, which never happened. Then, at 2:43 a.m., the light for line 3 blinked red. I picked up with the usual script. 911, what's your emergency? But what came through wasn't a voice. It was breathing. Slow, careful, like someone was trying not to be heard. And then a faint whisper. Can you hear me? I straightened in my chair. Yes, ma'am. Are you in danger? Can you tell me your location? The whisper came again, a little clearer. I don't know where I am. That wasn't unusual. Shock makes disoriented. Disoriented. I pulled up the tracing software. Coordinates flickered, then froze. Not miles away, but inside our own building. I frowned, refreshing the GPS. It showed the call originating from the dispatch center itself. Line 3, Station B, the one directly across from me. I turned to look. The chair at Station B was empty. My coworker Maya had gone to refill her coffee 10 minutes ago. Her headset lay on her desk. The breathing continued. Then came the whisper again, but quieter. Don't move. I froze. The sound wasn't coming from my earpiece anymore. It was echoing softly from Maya's headset across the room. Maya? I said, standing up. The voice in the headset whispered, Don't let it hang up. Then came a faint click. I looked down at the caller ID. Incoming, Station B, active, but Maya's monitor was dark. She came back moments later, laughing about the vending machine being out of coffee. I tried to explain, but she brushed it off, saying the system sometimes cross-wired when the servers updated. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had called from us. The next night, the same thing happened. Same time, same line. This time, when I answered, it wasn't a whisper. It was my own voice. Why didn't you listen? The trace showed the same impossible coordinates. Station B, right across from me. Maya was on her phone, scrolling through photos. I disconnected, unplugged my headset, and ran diagnostics. Everything was normal.
I saved the call recording, but when I went to play it back later, the audio had been replaced by silence. 46 seconds of nothing but a faint hum, like someone breathing through the wires. The next week, 3 of us stayed late to audit old recordings. We listened to random files from the night shifts, old car accidents, domestic calls, medical emergencies, and then, suddenly, one file played that none of us had opened. The timestamp read November 3rd, 2:43 a.m., the first night of the strange call. At first, it was the same quiet breathing. Then a voice, distorted, almost metallic, said, I've been waiting for you to pick up. And then, she's right behind you. I swear to you, every single one of us turned around. The room was empty. The next morning, I came in early and checked the log. The system showed no record of the call ever happening, but the same timestamp appeared in a folder labeled Auto Backups, Old. Only the backup server had been disconnected 6 months earlier. I showed the supervisor. He laughed it off, said maybe someone pranked me using an intercom. But the intercom system had been removed when they renovated the building years ago. The last night I worked there, I stayed late again. I needed to know. At 2:43, right on schedule, line 3 lit up. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. "Who is this?" I demanded. A pause. Then my own voice said, calm and familiar, "You shouldn't have answered." The lights in the building flickered. Every phone in the center began ringing at once. Their caller IDs all read the same number. Mine. When everything finally went silent, I heard one last whisper in my headset. "Can you hear me now?" If this story made you turn around to check your phone, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ever gotten a call they couldn't explain. Tell me in the comments, would you answer if the call came from your own number? When I was 16, my mother and I moved into a small house outside Flagstaff. It wasn't much, just 2 bedrooms, a creaky porch, and a bathroom mirror that never stayed clean, no matter how many times you wiped it. She said it was character. I said it was creepy. The house had belonged to an old man who'd passed away years earlier. The realtor mentioned it casually, like it didn't matter. He died peacefully in his sleep, she said. But something about that house never felt peaceful. It started on the second night. I brushed my teeth before bed, glanced at the mirror, and froze. For a split second, I thought someone was standing behind me. Tall, thin, just out of focus. But when I turned around, no one was there. I told myself it was my imagination. New house, bad lighting. But the next morning, I found something strange. A single wet handprint on the inside of the mirror. I wiped it off and laughed nervously. Maybe condensation, maybe my own hand. But over the next few days, more prints appeared. Sometimes on the corners, sometimes smeared like someone had pressed their face against the glass from the other side. One night, after Mom went to bed, I decided to test it. I turned off the lights, stood in front of the mirror, and whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. Just silence and the faint sound of the house settling. Then the bathroom light flickered. Once, twice, and the reflection changed. My reflection didn't move. It just stared back at me, eyes slightly wider, mouth slightly open. I stumbled backward, flicked the switch on and off. When the light came back, everything was normal again. The next morning, I told Mom. She laughed, said stress was making me see things. But that night, she came into my room pale as paper. "Did you knock on my door just now?" she asked. I hadn't. She said she'd heard 3 slow knocks on the bathroom door, and when she went to open it, the mirror was fogged over, though no one had used the shower. Written across the glass in streaky letters were the words, "He sees you too." That was the first night we slept with the lights on. A week passed. Things went quiet. Then one morning, I found the bathroom door open again. Mom was at work. I went inside and saw my own reflection, smiling. I wasn't. The grin stretched too wide, teeth too sharp, eyes too dark. I screamed, but the reflection didn't. It just tilted its head slowly, like it was studying me. Then the lights flickered, and it was gone. I told Mom we needed to move. She said we couldn't afford to, so I tried to ignore it, but the mirror didn't want to be ignored. Sometimes I'd catch it moving when I wasn't looking directly at it. Tiny, impossible shifts, a blink that came too late, a breath I didn't take. One night, I woke up to faint tapping. I thought it was rain at first, but the sound was too rhythmic. It was coming from the bathroom. When I opened the door, the mirror was cracked from the inside. The handprint on the glass wasn't mine anymore. It was bigger. Mom came running when I screamed. She didn't see anything. The crack was gone. The glass was clean. But when she left the room, I leaned in close to check. And that's when I saw it. A reflection of my bedroom door, and a tall, thin figure standing just beyond it. I turned around, but the room was empty. That was the last night I slept there. We moved 2 weeks later. I begged her to leave the mirror behind, but the movers packed it by mistake. When the boxes arrived at the new house, Mom found it leaning against the wall of her new bedroom. "Guess it wanted to come with us," she joked. We laughed, tried to forget. 3 nights ago, she called me in tears. She said she'd been brushing her hair when she saw something in the mirror, a reflection of me standing in the doorway behind her. But I live 3 states away. Now she's not answering her phone. I've tried calling all day, but every time the line picks up, I just hear faint breathing and then a whisper. "Don't look away this time." I'm driving there tomorrow, but every gas station bathroom, every motel hallway, every window, I keep catching glimpses of something standing behind me when I turn my head. I don't think it's stuck in the mirror anymore. I think it followed her out. And maybe it's looking for a new reflection. If you still dare to look in the mirror tonight, hit like and subscribe, and comment below what you'd do if your reflection ever smiled back when you didn't.